The wind was cold and sharp on the rocky surface of Outpost Line Delta. Above, the sky was dark, filled with thick clouds and glowing with the distant fire of falling ships. Human soldiers stood in silence, their boots deep in mud, their faces tired and covered in dust. They had been fighting for weeks, and now they were the last line. If this outpost fell, Earth's final defense would break. Everyone knew what that meant, but no one left. No one ran. Captain Rayner walked along the line of soldiers, his eyes scanning each face. He had lost many men, many friends. But those, still standing, were more than soldiers. They were something stronger now. He stopped beside a young soldier, Private Khan, who was holding his rifle with shaking hands. Rayner placed a hand on his shoulder. "Are you ready?" the captain asked. Quietly, Khan looked up, fear in his eyes. "They said we won't survive the night, sir." Rayner nodded. "Then we die here, but we don't break the line." A heavy silence followed, broken only by the distant thunder of approaching engines. Alien ships, massive and glowing blue, were coming. They filled the sky like giant beasts. These were not normal enemies. They were part of the Zorak Alliance, an alien force with powerful weapons, fast ships, and no mercy. They had crushed every colony, every planet, every army. They met. Earth was next. But the humans at Outpost Line Delta had made a choice. They would not let the enemy pass, even if it cost them everything. The soldiers checked their weapons. Ammunition was low. Supplies had not arrived for days. The radio connection to command was broken. They were alone, but still they prepared. In the trench, Lieutenant Harris was setting up the last machine gun. She looked at the old metal and smiled sadly. "This gun is older than me," she said. Corporal Singh beside her replied, "Then it knows how to survive." They laughed softly, the kind of laugh people give when they know the end is close. Yet it gave them strength. In moments like this, even a small joke could help them forget the fear. As night fell, the sky changed. The stars vanished behind alien ships. Lights moved in the sky like hungry eyes searching for prey. The ground started to shake. The first wave was coming. Rayner raised his binoculars and looked into the distance. A massive wall of enemy troops was marching toward them. Machines rolled forward. Drones flew overhead. The enemy didn't rush. They believed this fight was already won. After all, only a few hundred humans were left. What could they possibly do? But Rayner knew something the aliens didn't. He turned to his team, voice calm but strong. "They think we're weak. They think we'll break. Show them they're wrong." Private Khan took a deep breath. "Sir, if we fall, will Earth remember us?" Rayner looked at the young soldier and answered, "They'll remember that we never broke the line." The sound of alien weapons echoed in the air. Bright blasts lit up the trench. The first attack had begun. Humans returned fire. Bullets flew. Explosions rocked the ground. Dust filled the air. But the soldiers didn't move back. Every man and woman held their position. When one gun fell silent, another picked it up. When one soldier was hit, someone else took their place. In the chaos, the enemy pushed forward. Some reached the edge of the trench. Hand-to-hand combat broke out. Blades, fists, blood. It was brutal. But the humans fought like they had nothing to lose and everything to protect. Captain Rayner was everywhere, giving orders, helping the wounded, fighting with his own hands. He was not just a leader. He was one of them. Hours passed. The enemy began to slow. They had expected fear. But what they found was something else, something terrifying. They found humans who refused to give up. As the first wave ended, the battlefield fell quiet. Smoke hung heavy in the air. Bodies, metal, and fire lay everywhere. The trench still stood. The line was not broken. Private Khan sat against the trench wall, bleeding from the arm but alive. He looked at the flag hanging. Beside them, dirty, torn, but still flying. "We're still here," he whispered. Captain Rayner walked past him, nodded once, and replied, "And we'll be here till the end." Far in the sky, more ships were moving. The next wave was coming, bigger, stronger, but the soldiers didn't fear it. They loaded their rifles, tightened their armor, looked at each other with silent understanding. They were not just defending land, they were defending hope. And hope does not break. Not here. Not tonight. The cold night did not end. It only grew darker. The ground at Outpost Line Delta was shaking again. Distant booms filled the air, louder and closer with every minute. Inside the trench, the soldiers looked up. A red light blinked. On the wall, enemy movement detected. Captain Rayner stood near the center of the trench, holding his rifle tightly. His face was calm, but inside he knew this was it. The first real wave. The last one had only been a test. Now the enemy was serious. Alarms started to scream. Soldiers ran to their positions. Lieutenant Harris shouted orders. "Get ready! No one leaves the line." Private Khan, his arm now wrapped in a bloody bandage, held his weapon and looked over the edge. His eyes widened. "They're coming!" he shouted. Out in the distance, it looked like a moving wall. Hundreds, no thousands of alien warriors were charging toward the trench. Their eyes glowed. Their armor shimmered like metal snakes, and behind them, giant machines rolled forward, firing blue plasma beams into the sky. It was a storm of metal and fire. The humans opened fire. The trench lit up with muzzle flashes. Bullets flew through the darkness. Rockets launched from behind sandbags. Machine guns roared like wild animals. The air became fire and smoke. Alien bodies fell. But they kept coming. Wave after wave. Some soldiers screamed. Some cried. But none ran. They fired until their weapons burned hot. Then they reloaded and fired again. In the middle of the chaos, Corporal Singh shouted to Lieutenant Harris, "We can't stop all of them." "We don't need to stop all," she replied. "Just hold long enough." Khan's gun jammed. With shaking hands, he fixed it, then fired again. He saw one of the alien machines getting close. It fired a blast that hit the trench wall, throwing 2 soldiers into the air. Rayner ran to help them, dragging one back behind cover. "Medic," he called out. The medic, a young woman named Lena, crawled over with her kit. Her hands were red with blood. She didn't speak, just worked. Above the trench, an alien warrior jumped in. It was tall, armored, and fast. It swung. Glowing blade. Private Khan turned just in time. He fired his last rounds into the alien's chest. It dropped, but not before cutting his shoulder. Khan fell back, screaming. Rayner pulled him away, shouting, "Stay down! You've done enough!" Soldiers were tired, some were hurt, some were already gone. But still they fought. The alien army had expected humans to fall fast, but they had not broken the line. An explosion shook the ground. A missile from the alien side hit the trench roof. Dirt and fire rained down. Dust filled everyone's eyes. Ears rang. For a few seconds it was chaos, then voices. "Hold the left side. Cover the wounded. Reload and fire again." The humans were still alive. Still fighting. In the middle of the smoke, Captain Rayner stood tall. His helmet was cracked, his arm bleeding, but he shouted with full strength, "We hold the line, not for victory, but for each other." And somehow, that gave them strength. They pushed back, shot after shot, grenade after grenade. Slowly, the wave of aliens began to break. They were not used to this, not used to prey fighting back so hard, not used to pain. The alien commander, watching from far above in a ship, narrowed its eyes. "These humans," it said, "they should be broken by now." Its second-in-command replied, "But they are not." "They are still standing," the commander hissed. "Then we send more." But the humans had already done what no species had ever done before. They had stopped a full wave of Zorak warriors, not with better weapons, not with more power, but with heart. The second wave ended as quickly as it began. The battlefield was quiet again. Fires burned all around. The trench was damaged but still standing. Lieutenant Harris walked along the line, checking on her soldiers. She stopped at Khan, who was resting against a wall, eyes half closed. "You still with us, soldier?" she asked. He smiled weakly. "I think so." She nodded. "Good. We'll need you again soon." Captain Rayner looked at the horizon. More. Ships were in the sky. The night was not over. But the first real test was done and humanity had passed. They weren't supposed to win, but they hadn't lost either. They had stood the storm, and the line had not broken. Not yet. Smoke still floated in the cold air above Outpost Line Delta. The trench was quiet for now, but the silence was heavy. Soldiers sat with their backs against the walls, cleaning weapons, wrapping wounds, and sharing water. No one spoke much. They all knew it was only a short break. The enemy would return soon, and next time they might not stop. Captain Rayner stood alone on the edge of the trench, staring at the broken field ahead. Alien bodies and destroyed machines lay scattered. It looked like a graveyard. He took out his radio, hoping for good news. "Command, this is Delta Line. We survived the second wave. We need backup. We need ammo. Do you copy?" Static. He waited. More static. Then a voice, weak and distant. "Delta Line. Command here. Situation. Critical, all reinforcements, redirected. No help coming." Then silence. Rayner closed his eyes. He had known it was a possibility. Earth was under attack everywhere. Other outposts were falling. The command center couldn't send help. Not now. Maybe not ever. Lieutenant Harris walked up behind him. She had heard the message, too. "No one's coming, are they?" she asked. Rayner shook his head. "No, we're on our own." Back in the trench, the news spread fast. Soldiers lowered their heads. Some cursed. Some stayed silent. Everyone knew what it meant. They were truly alone now. Private Khan sat with a group of soldiers holding a small photo of his family. His hand was shaking. "We're going to die here," he whispered. Corporal Singh looked at him. "Maybe. But we won't die for nothing." Khan looked up. "What do you mean?" Singh pointed at the flag still flying above the trench. "Every second we hold this line, Earth gets more time. Time to fight, time to prepare, time to live." Another soldier, a young woman named Elena, nodded. "We're not just fighting to survive. We're fighting so others can." That night, Rayner called a meeting. The soldiers stood in a half circle, tired but listening. "I won't lie to you," he said. "No one is coming. We are alone. The enemy will attack again, maybe in hours, maybe in minutes. We have limited ammo, broken weapons, and wounded everywhere." He paused, looking into their eyes. "But we're still here. And as long as they don't pass. We don't hold the line for medals. We hold it because if we fall, Earth falls with us." No one cheered. No one shouted. But something changed. The fear didn't go away, but it had somewhere to stand now. Something solid. A reason. In the morning, the soldiers prepared again. They built traps from broken parts. They fixed weapons with tape and wire. One engineer even turned an alien plasma rifle into a turret. It wasn't perfect, but it worked. As the sun rose, dark shadows moved across the sky again. More enemy ships. Another wave was coming. Khan looked up and whispered, "Here we go again." But this time, something was different. They were still afraid, but they were also ready. Even without hope, they would fight. Even without help, they would stand. They were not defending a trench anymore. They were defending the future, and they would not break the line. The ground at Outpost Line Delta was covered in ash and smoke. The air smelled like fire and metal. Broken weapons, blood, and pieces of enemy machines lay everywhere. But the humans were still alive, still breathing, still standing. Captain Rayner walked through the trench, checking on his people. Some soldiers were resting, heads down. Others worked quietly, fixing rifles, building traps, and watching the sky. No one complained. No one asked when help would come. They already knew the answer. Rayner stopped beside Lieutenant Harris, who was drawing something in the dirt with a stick. "What are you working on?" he asked. She pointed to her rough sketch. "A plan, a new defense. If they come again, we make it harder for them. We turn the trench into a trap." Rayner nodded. "We'll need every trick we've got." Human weapons were nearly finished. Ammo was low. Power cells for energy rifles were blinking red. But humans had something the enemy didn't expect: creativity. They were good at using whatever they had, no matter how broken or old. In the engineering tent, Corporal Singh was working with a team of soldiers. They had collected alien tech from the battlefield. Blasters, drones, broken machines. And we're trying to make something new. What if we connect this alien power cell to our turret? Singh asked, holding a glowing core. The others looked. Sure. That could explode, someone said. Or it could give us one working defense gun, Singh replied. They wired it up slowly, carefully. Sparks flew. A warning light blinked. Then it powered on. The turret came to life, glowing blue. It worked. Everyone smiled. It was small, but it was a win. Elsewhere, Elena, the young soldier who had barely spoken before, was setting up traps. She tied tripwires to grenades and placed noise sensors near the trench edge. They walk here, she said, pointing, and boom, surprise. Khan, watching her, asked, Where'd you learn this? She shrugged. Used to play with wires. Back home. Never thought I'd use it in a war. Khan laughed softly. I never thought I'd be in a war. Later that night, the sky changed again. This time, it was not ships. It was something bigger. A giant alien war machine walked across the hills. It was 3 stories tall, with metal legs like towers. Its eyes glowed red. Its arms carried plasma cannons that could melt through stone. Behind it, a line of smaller machines marched, ready for destruction. The humans saw it and no one ran. Lieutenant Harris looked at the machine through her scope. That thing could destroy the whole trench in minutes. Rayner stayed calm. Then, we don't give it minutes. He pointed at the new traps, the modified turret, the strange alien blaster now mounted to a sandbag wall. We built this together. Let's see if it works. The war machine stepped closer. The ground shook. Khan's hands were sweating. He looked at the others. No one looked away. Ready, shouted Rayner. The machine fired first. A blue beam shot across the field and smashed into the trench wall. Dirt exploded into the air, but the turret fired back, blue plasma from the stolen alien core. It hit the machine in the leg. The metal burned. Elena's traps exploded one by one, shaking the earth. Smaller machines were ripped apart. Smoke filled the field. Humans used the distraction to fire from every direction. The war machine turned, confused. It had never faced this kind of resistance. It stepped forward and triggered the biggest trap. Singh had placed 3 grenades under a metal plate. When the heavy foot came down, boom, the blast broke one of its legs. The machine tilted, sparks flying. Rayner shouted, Now, everything we have. Soldiers fired everything. Bullets, rockets, plasma, even knives. The war machine tried to lift its cannon, but it was too late. A final rocket hit its chest. The machine fell with a deafening crash, fire rising into the sky. Silence followed. Then, someone cheered. Then another. For the first time in days, the trench filled with laughter and claps. They had done it. They had taken down something that should have killed them all. They had done it not with power, but with human ingenuity. That night, around a small fire, Khan looked at Rayner and said, We turned junk into weapons. We turned fear into fire. Rayner nodded. They still have more, but we have more too. Khan smiled. What's that? Rayner looked at the flag flying above them and said, We have each other, and we never break the line. The sky turned red as morning came. Smoke from the broken alien war machine still rose into the air. The battlefield was quiet for now, but the silence felt strange, like something was waiting. Inside the trench, the soldiers rested with one eye open. No one trusted the peace. They had survived 3 waves already. First the foot soldiers, then the machines, and now the giant war walker. But everyone knew the enemy wasn't done. Captain Rayner stood near the edge of the trench. With his binoculars, he scanned the far hills but saw nothing. Lieutenant Harris walked up beside him. They're planning something, Rayner nodded. They're testing us, studying us. They thought we would run, she said. Rayner gave a small smile. They were wrong. A few feet away, Private Khan was helping the medic Lena sort supplies. They were almost out of everything. Bandages, painkillers, even clean water. Khan picked up a burned-out medical scanner and sighed. This thing's useless. Now, Lena shrugged. So we use our hands. Khan looked around at the trench. Everything was dirty, damaged, and full of scars. Yet somehow it was still strong, like the people inside it. They keep sending more, Khan said quietly. Bigger, stronger, faster. Lena looked at him. And we're still here. Later that day, drones flew above the trench. Not human ones. Alien scouts. They circled like vultures, scanning everything. Elena, the quiet trap maker, aimed her rifle carefully and shot one down. It fell with a soft thud. Corporal Singh studied. The broken drone. They're mapping us, he said, trying to find weak points. They won't find any, Elena replied without looking up. Still, tension grew. That night, a strange noise filled the air. A low hum. Like metal grinding or energy charging. The ground started to shake again. The soldiers rushed to their posts. But this time, it wasn't a wave of foot soldiers or walkers. This time, the enemy sent something different. A group of floating alien soldiers came over the ridge. They didn't touch the ground. They wore armor that bent light, making them almost invisible. Their weapons were silent, firing sharp beams of energy. The first shot hit a guard tower. It melted in seconds. "Snipers! Get down!" Harris shouted. The trench lit up again with fire and flashes. But this fight was harder. The floating soldiers were fast. Too fast. They darted through the air, attacking from above, from behind, from angles humans couldn't expect. Private Khan ducked behind a wall as a beam cut through the sandbags beside him. "They're like ghosts," he shouted. Corporal Singh crawled beside him. Not ghosts, just another problem to solve. He held up a flare gun. "What are you doing?" Khan asked. Singh fired it into the sky. The red flare burst above the trench, lighting up everything. Suddenly, the invisible soldiers became visible. Their cloaks flickered and their real shapes appeared, thin, insect-like bodies covered in metal skin. "Now!" Harris shouted. "Light them up!" The humans opened fire with everything they had. The turret fired again. Elena threw grenades. Even wounded soldiers picked up rifles and joined in. One by one, the floating enemies were shot down. Some tried to escape. They didn't make it. 10 minutes later, the trench was quiet again. Raynor walked among the bodies. He looked at the strange alien tech, now broken and scattered. "They sent assassins," he said. "They're getting desperate," Harris replied. Singh walked over, wiping blood from his cheek. "They thought this would scare us." Raynor looked at his tired, dirty soldiers, some with bandages, some missing gear, but all still standing. "We've seen fear," Raynor said. "We've felt it, but we don't follow it." That night, the soldiers shared what little they had. Half rations, cold water, but also smiles, jokes, even a song someone hummed softly. Khan leaned back against the trench wall, looking at the stars. "You ever think we'd make it this far?" he asked. Elena nodded. "No, but I never thought I'd find family in a war either." He looked at her, surprised. She smiled. "Don't tell anyone I said that." He laughed quietly. "I won't." In the command ship above the battlefield, the alien commander slammed a clawed hand against the screen. "They should be broken," it growled. "They are not," its second-in-command replied. "They are still holding." The commander stared at the image of the small, damaged trench, still standing, still defiant. "Then bring everything," it said. "We end them with fire." Back in the trench, Captain Raynor whispered to himself, "Whatever they bring next, we hold. We always hold." The war wasn't over. The line had not broken, and the hardest battle was still to come. It began just before sunrise. The sky turned black, not from clouds, but from ships. Hundreds of alien warships, like a swarm, covered the sky above Outpost. Line Delta. Their engines roared like thunder. The ground shook with each blast from above. The final wave had arrived. Captain Raynor looked up, his face calm but cold. Around him, the trench was full of tired but ready soldiers. They had no illusions now. This would be the biggest fight. Maybe the last. "They're bringing everything," Lieutenant Harris said, standing beside him. Raynor nodded. "Good. So, are we?" Even though their weapons were few and supplies low, the humans had prepared all night. Elena had finished setting up the last traps, dozens of them, hidden carefully across the battlefield. Singh had turned another alien plasma cell into a makeshift bomb, and every soldier had reinforced the trench wall with whatever they could. Metal panels, sandbags, broken enemy armor. Khan held his rifle tightly. It had scratches and burn marks, but it still worked. "They think we're weak," he said to Elena. "They still don't understand," she replied. The first explosions came from the sky. The alien ships fired massive beams at the trenches. Dirt and stone flew through the air. The humans stayed low, holding their ground. As the smoke cleared, the enemy came, marching in perfect rows, metal bodies shining in the early light. There were thousands of them, machines, walkers, infantry. Drones, a wave so large it looked like a moving wall. Captain Rayner shouted, "Hold fire! Hold now!" The sky lit up with fire. Every human gun fired at once, traps exploded. The modified turret sent plasma bolts into the crowd. Elena's mines tore through the front lines. Singh's bomb rolled under a walker and exploded, sending metal flying. The aliens kept coming. One walker reached the edge of the trench. It raised its cannon, but then stopped. Its legs buckled. Khan had shot its joint, the weak spot. It fell sideways, crashing into another machine. Still, more came. A drone flew into the trench and exploded. The shockwave threw 3 soldiers back. Harris dragged one of them to safety and fired at another drone in the sky. "Don't give them ground," she yelled. Rayner was everywhere, firing, helping, shouting orders. His face was covered in dirt and blood, but he never stopped. Then the aliens tried something new. They opened a portal behind the trench. From it, tall, thin creatures appeared. Not machines, something worse. They moved fast with long claws and glowing eyes. They were hunters. One jumped into the trench. Khan barely dodged its attack. He fired, but the bullets bounced off its armor. It lunged at him again, until Elena threw a grenade at its feet. The blast threw it into the wall. "Thanks," Khan gasped. She nodded. "Don't get killed yet." The battle raged for hours. Every inch of the trench was attacked. Parts were destroyed. Sandbags burned. The turret was finally hit and exploded in a ball of fire. But still, the humans fought. They used what they had: rocks, knives, fists. Wounded soldiers tied cloth around their heads and kept fighting. No one gave up. No one ran. Finally, just before sunset, the enemy began to fall back, slowly, then faster. They were retreating. Cheers broke out in the trench. Tired voices shouted in victory. Some laughed, some cried. They had done it again. They had held the line. Rayner stood at the top of the trench, watching the enemy disappear into the smoke. "We're still here," he whispered. Harris joined him. "Barely?" he smiled. "Barely's enough." Khan sat down, breathing hard. His clothes were torn, his arms bruised, but he was alive. "I thought that was it," he said. Singh limped over, his leg bleeding. "It almost was," he said. "But almost isn't enough to beat us." That night, the trench was quiet again. Fires burned low. The stars came out. Soldiers sat close together, sharing stories, memories, and silence. Rayner stood in the middle of the trench, looking at each one. "Them, you've done the impossible," he said. "You faced everything they had, and you're still standing. You've made history today, not because of weapons or armor, but because of heart." No one spoke, but they all felt it. The weight of what they had done. The next morning, a message came through the radio. "Delta line, this is command. We read you. Reinforcements are on the way." Rayner closed his eyes, smiling. After all this time, help was finally coming. But it didn't matter now, because they had already won something greater than victory. They had proven to the galaxy that humanity never breaks. They fight, they adapt, and they never ever break the line. The sound of engines grew louder in the sky. This time it wasn't the enemy. These were human ships, real, powerful reinforcements. Dropships, gunships, and supply carriers flew over the trench, flying the Earth Alliance flag. The soldiers, in Outpost Line Delta, stared up in silence. Some thought they were dreaming. Others just smiled. "We made it," Khan whispered, his voice shaking. Captain Rayner stood tall, though his face was pale and tired. His uniform was torn, one arm in a sling, but he looked proud. A voice came over the radio again. "Delta Line, this is Earth Alliance Command. We see you. We are landing now. Hold. Position." Lieutenant Harris lowered her rifle and let out a deep breath. "We're not alone anymore." The ships landed one by one. Medics rushed out first. They moved through the trench, checking wounds, giving water, treating burns. Supplies were passed down the line. Food, ammo, blankets. It felt like a dream. But deep inside, the soldiers knew. They hadn't been saved. They had saved themselves. Commanders from the Earth Alliance arrived soon after. They were shocked when they saw the trench. What was left of it? Walls were broken. The ground was scorched. Blood and broken machines were everywhere, but the flag was still flying. Rayner stood before the highest-ranking officer, his body stiff with pain. "You held the line," the officer said softly. "We never planned to do anything else." Rayner replied. All around them, soldiers sat on crates, leaned against walls, or rested in silence. Some still held weapons out of habit. Others were sleeping, finally at peace. In the corner of the trench, Singh worked with an Alliance engineer, showing him the modified turret they built from alien tech. "You did this with scrap?" the engineer asked. Singh nodded. "We had no choice. You turned alien energy into defense systems. Humans adapt," Singh said simply. Elena showed one of the new soldiers her trap designs. She explained, "Every wire, every sensor, every hidden mine." "You're not an engineer?" the soldier asked. "No," Elena said. "I used to fix phones before the war." Khan sat beside Harris and watched the sunrise. "So, is it really over?" he asked. "Not yet," she said. "But it's our turn now." The news of Delta Line spread fast across Earth and every colony. People heard how a small group of humans stood alone against a full alien army and didn't break. Videos and pictures of the trench of Rayner, Harris, Elena, Khan, Singh, and all the others spread across the networks. They became symbols, not of power, but of courage. One alien commander, watching the human footage from his warship, growled in frustration. "How can they fight like this?" he asked. "They had nothing." His advisor replied, "They had each other. They had something we cannot break." The enemy began to rethink everything. They came expecting fear. They met resistance. They came expecting surrender. They met traps, fire, and steel. They came expecting to crush weak humans. Instead, they found a wall, Outpost Line Delta, a place where no one ran, a place where the line never broke. Months later, a monument was built at the site, a steel wall, tall and wide, engraved with the names of every soldier who fought there, living and fallen. At the top 5 words were carved in bold. They never broke the line. Visitors from Earth and other planets came to see it. Children read the names and asked questions. Soldiers stood in silence, remembering. Rayner, now retired, visited often. He would stand before the wall with his hand on the names. Sometimes he smiled, sometimes he cried. Khan became a teacher, telling young recruits what Delta really meant. "It wasn't about winning," he said. "It was about standing, about holding on, even when no one else is coming." Elena started building defense systems for other outposts. Singh became a tech officer in the Earth fleet. Harris stayed in the military, leading new soldiers, but always carried a piece of the trench with her. The war continued, but everything had changed. The enemy now feared human lines because they had learned something they never expected. You can crush machines, you can break walls, but you can't break human will. Not when they stand together, not when they refuse to fall, not when they say, "This far, no further." And so the story of Outpost Line Delta lived on, not just in books or films, but in every human heart, because it was the day the galaxy learned. Humanity never gives, humanity never forgets, and humanity never breaks the line.